see what this patch actually contains. And after that is done, I will make a shorter compilation. I might do the compilation off stream where I just talk about what it actually means, what this patch is about, because this is going to be a pretty long video. So if you're not into it, you might want to check out the other one. So 6.84 is upon us, and it's been much hyped. Everyone has been waiting, and we'll zoom in a little bit more so it looks better on a video, and make the camera a little bit smaller because it can be easier to read this way. We'll put ourselves there. So, gameplay update 6.84. First of all, there are some general updates that are worth mentioning. The AoE bonus gold component based on team net worth difference is reduced by 25%. The AoE bonus experience component based on team experience difference is reduced by 40%. So these are things affecting the rubber band, the team net worth difference. This is the rubber band we're talking about. We're reducing gold change in the AoE gold by 25% and the experience by 40%. Melee lane creeps are worth a little bit less gold, 40. Range creeps are worth 45. So that's a little bit of a dent to your early economy here by removing gold from farming. 7% for melee creeps, 6.25 for range creeps. Hero kills are worth 10% more if you don't think about the net worth difference. So this is outside of the rubber band, just making kills a little bit more important. Reduce the direct hero last hit bounty by 100 and redistributed that gold into AoE gold. So you get a little bit less for the actual kill in itself, but it's going to be put into the AoE gold. So if you're alone, it changes nothing, and if there's more of you, it changes something. So solo kills are not affected at all. It's just that last hitting the kill is not as important anymore, which I think is fair because you already get tons of gold from killing a streak, for example. AoE gold is now distributed based on relative net worth amongst the heroes involved in killing the hero by plus or minus 25%. So we're gonna have to look at the example here because that's not too obvious to understand straight away. Example, if 3 heroes kill an enemy hero and the extra AoE bounty would normally be 200 for each player, it is going to be 200 plus 25% for the poorest hero, 200 for the middle, and minus 25% for the richest. This doesn't care about how much richer you are, it's just that's the way it is. So it benefits the sport in ganks in general. That's what it's going to mean. The amount of AoE bonus gold given is now decreased by up to 20% based on the dying hero's relative rank in net worth amongst all the enemies on that team. So not only do we get one change, we get more changes here. Where example is if the total AoE gold would normally be 600. If the hero dying is the lowest in net worth in rank, the bounty is reduced by 20% and giving only 480. If the dying hero is the highest in net worth, it's going to increase by 20%, giving 720. So this is a matter of who you're killing. You're not going to get tons of gold for killing an enemy support just because you're behind. Is what this is trying to affect. And you will get slightly more for getting the top kill, but we already had some changes to how much gold you get, so it's gonna balance out nicely, I believe. This is overall a nerf to the comeback mechanic, especially not getting so much gold from the full-on team wipes. Instead of buyback temporarily preventing unreliable gold gain, it now reduces all golds by 60%. So you can farm, you just get 60% less. Which I think is a very nice change, and that way, it used to be like you can buy back, but then you're unable to do anything, it feels like, for a very long period of time. So forcing buyback was a huge thing. Now you can still do something. So if the enemy comes and forces you buyback, maybe you can still, get out and farm on the map. Melee barracks bounty increased, range barracks bounty increased. This is just more gold for the entire team. Pretty significant amount of gold, actually, 125 on the range backs and 100 more gold. So that's plenty of gold, actually. But then again, you don't really kill the racks for gold, but it makes it more rewarding to push the high ground towers. Reduced armor a little bit on the tier 2 and 3 towers. Not by a whole lot though. 3 armor is not a massive difference here, but it will make it a little bit easier to break the high ground and more rewarding as well. They changed the timings for the extra creep spawns to be more logical. 15, 30, and 45 minutes is when you're gonna get extra creeps now, not 17, 30, 34, and 50, 30. I guess a lot of people did not even know these timings. This is primarily important in competitive scene, not something that pubbers will think about, I guess. Extra range creep is changed to 45 flat as well. Creeps now meet slightly closer to the dire safe lane. I think that was worth, because there was a difference in the two safe lanes, how they were balanced. So I think that was good. They changed the bounty a whole lot on a lot of creeps. So they already lowered the gold from laning creeps, right? Now they lowered gold from the dragons, the thunderhides, the satyr tormentor, hellbear's health is reduced by a whole lot, and their bounty is reduced. I think this is the only change that I really like about it. Like, I'm a farmer, okay? I'm not gonna like when gold goes down. But hellbear's HP going down by 950 to 700. I think that's a very good change, because they are super hard to kill early on, especially for any jungler level 1. I guess Enigma can kill them fairly easily. But yeah, here's another thing. Rework on the mud golems. They become pretty interesting now, because they get a skill. Mud golems no longer have spell immunity, they have 50% resistance. Alright, fair enough. Armor is reduced from 2 to 0, so very easy to farm now. Mud golems can now split into 2 smaller mud golems called shard golems when they die. They have 30% of the original unit's health and damage, and they only live for 60 seconds. Mud golem's movement speed increased from 270 to 310. 310 is pretty good movement speed for a creep. Mud golems also also shard golems have a new active ability, Hurl Boulder. It's a 0.6 second stun, so it's extremely short. 125 damage, quite good damage actually. It's fairly high. 30-second cooldown, 800 range, good damage. Not a very long stun, but it could set up for your ganks. And they do not automatically cast this spell, so they're not gonna use it when you're farming jungle. You're not gonna get chain stunned and killed. That's a very old thing in Dota. Golden experience bounty is rescaled, so you get the same farming total camp. So that's interesting. Now mud golems are definitely a target for Chen to pick up in gank with, I think. Hero kills achieved by units under your control now provide experience credit to your hero. So that's very useful for a lot of different heroes like Lone Druid and the Spirit Bear, the golems from Warlock, the familiars, Chen creeps, anything that you control. Killing an enemy unit will now give you experience to your hero, provided that you're alive, I would assume. I don't think it's gonna do it if you're dead, because that wouldn't make sense at all. Melee attacks, I'm gonna have to check that by the way, but melee attacks now miss if the target is farther away than 350 range more than their attack range. So this will prevent stuff like Ursa blinking in and clapping and then starting an attack, and when you leap away as Mirana or something, you still get attacked, because there was very buggy things like that. PA has an example of that as well. It was a bug with how much movement speed you had, and the game just calculating weird. You could get like 1,000 range Ursa right clicks and stuff like that. So good change. It's a bug fix pretty much. Less time for all pick. I think that's really good. The picking phase is very long now. Following abilities no longer ignore units classified as ancients. This just affects that a lot of them can farm the small dragons, for example. They're not magic immune, so stuff like tornado and tons of different spells will be able to work on the ancients. Not on all ancients, just the dragons or other ancients that are not magic immune, but they all are right now, unless they change that as well. Just the small dragons. Damage block no longer affects physical spells. Previously it affected some physical spells and some not. There were a lot of spells, like for example the Return from Centaur, the Landmines, the Slitherine Crush, Meld. A lot of different things got blocked. Like this, following abilities that were previously getting reduced twice, part of the attack instead of just once. Shadow Walk, Vendetta, and Meld are now just reduced ones, as they should. So in general, Vanguard won't be blocking a lot of spells anymore. And yeah, there were things that did not get blocked, like Quill Spray and Exorcism and so on. This is just another bug fix, I feel. You could say that it's a change in the play and that it was intended from the beginning, but I think it's a bug fix, honestly. Cast behavior while turning to cast has been adjusted. What this means is basically, like, there's a lot of technical about this, but what this means in general is that you will have an easier, yeah, exactly, like it says on the bottom. The subtle difference applies most commonly with Blink Dagger, as you could easily accidentally cancel your Blink order if you clicked the other ability before you reached the critical angle. So you can now queue up. If you click that you want to blink and call, and your hero is not really facing the right way, you would fuck up your blink and maybe call or ravage before you get there, and now it will work properly because your hero will keep casting the blink, pretty much. That's just one example, though. It will be the same for different spells. Rework the item silencing and passive disabling behaviors. This is kind of major, so I'm going to talk about it as well. The item silencing is now called mute. If you cannot use your items, you're muted. Passive disabling is called break. You're broken. So mute disables the ability to cast items like Doom, Scepter on Static Storm, and Hex, for example. These are things that apply the mute in 6.83, and break disables the bonus of passives like Doombringer, Aghanim Scepter, and Hex did in the previous. So this means that they changed a little bit, because this is important because break is now the thing that cancels your passive abilities, right? There are a lot of abilities listed here that get broken by break. This is the full list. Actually, yeah, this is meant to be the full list, I believe, of abilities that get broken. It says added to the list of passive disabled with break, but we didn't have a list of passives disabled with break before, so it could take into account other things. But things to mention is that stuff like headshot, take aim, sight blades. It's a great counter to Luna because you disable Lunar Blessing and Moonglaves. You disable Desolate from the Spectre. There's a lot of different things, right, that get disabled when you apply break, but not too many things do apply it. We can, in fact, go down and find that Shadow Demon gets break if he has Ag's upgrade on his ulti. So that's pretty big because he gets 3 of these, and he can apply break during his ulti, which is a long duration. So Shadow Demon, not only being able to copy a lot of these heroes like Luna and getting strong copies, he can also disable them quite heavily. I would say he's an ultimate hard counter to Luna now, is getting an Axe upgrade on a Shadow Demon. And as for other things that enable break, there aren't many. So very big for him indeed. Additional note, damage block and critical strike no longer have special classifications on how they interact with the above. They are only disabled if they match the general rules of the above. For example, Butterfly's Evasion is not disabled when you're hexed or doomed, since break does not affect items, no different than plate mail not being disabled. Makes sense. Makes sense. I'm not sure on that argument though, no different than plate mail not being disabled. It's you know, it's strange, but that's fine. Just because it says up here it disables the ability to cast items, so using plate mail as an example is weird because that's not an ability, but whatever. Hex no longer applies the break mechanic, so Hex does not do that. Very big for Rasta and Lion that they will not be able to remove some of these important things. Silence no longer disables invisibility. This is pretty big for some Invis heroes, so it's slight buff here, but don't worry, the Invis heroes are gonna get what they deserve later on. They will get a very evil effect, whereas Zeus, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but Zeus will be able to hit Invis heroes with his ulti without having reveal on them before, because it deals the damage first. They moved around some items, so Ring of Health, Voidstone Orb of Venom moved from Secret Shop to base. Plate Mail, Talisman Evasion, and Ultimate Orb moved from base to Secret Shop. My first initial reaction was like, yay, Ultimate Orb and Secret Shop, I can build Hex now. Then I'm like, wait, the Voidstone is moved. So, very curious change and added Voidstone and Mantle of Intelligence to the side shop. So you could buy the entire hex without having to go to the base now. You can go to the side shop. Mantle of Intelligence being there is going to be relevant because of a new item as well later on. Runes now have a higher hitbox priority over units, so you can't really stand on top of the rune and just make it impossible to click it. So it's not about who gets on top of the rune first, it's about who clicks it the best. I don't care if your hero is standing on the rune, I can still click the bounty when it spawns. Is basically what this is saying, as long as I'm in range to pick it up. Armor now shows decimal places in the hover tooltip. Yeah, that's nice. Fixed buyback respawn timer penalty being reset if you die holding the Aegis. That's kind of curious. That was a weird bug. I did not even know about that one. The following heroes are no longer restricted from buying a Basher or Abyssal Blade, but they're still restricted from activating Bash. So you can buy Basher just to get the stats from it, and get the Abyssal Blade to get the active, but you cannot bash with it on bash heroes like Spirit Breaker, Faceless Void Starter, and Troll. Now we're getting to interesting parts towards the heroes. This was just an the prelude. We had to read through all of the general changes. Starting off, Abaddon, he can use his ulti even if he's stunned, same as Morphling's Morph. Nice little buff for him. Could be pretty big against heroes like Lina who have massive burst damage. Alchemist gets a pretty big change. Unstable Concoction Countdown now can be seen by the enemy's heroes. That's a nerf for sure. Unstable Concoction now is an area targeting cursor, seeing how big AoE it has when you're hitting the opponent. Grievous Greed gives you 4 times the bounty from runes. Very, very curious indeed. Alchemist now casts Aghanim's Scepter. You can cast Aghanim's Scepter directly to grant an allied hero all Aghanim's Scepter bonuses as a buff. The hero upgrade and the stat upgrade. So everything that you get from the axe, you will get if Alchemist buys it for you and uses it on you. The scepter is consumed in the process, so it disappears. It doesn't even take an inventory slot. Multiple instances of this buff do not stack. He can target himself as well. So he can pull axe onto everyone. That's massive. That's actually massive, making him much more able to keep farming for the late game as well, because he can give your entire team Aghanims. That's really huge. So one of Alchemist's biggest strengths is that he can farm it. Of course, being able to consume this himself makes it so that he can add a little bit of extra tankiness. You get 390 HP from one Aghanims, so buying it just for tankiness onto yourself is pretty worth, as Alchemist does have max HP issues. So this patch has a lot of Aghanims. I will already tell you that. There are many Ag upgrades. So let's proceed. Ancient Apparition Chilling Touch can now be removed by clicking on the buff icon above the health bar. Sometimes when you're pushing, you don't want to have the AA ulti on you. So there are more examples of this as well, where clicking the buff can change something. So very good to have that in mind when you're pushing, because it slows down your attack speed. Sometimes you want to get rid of it. Berserker Call cast points from 0.3 to 0.4, a pretty big change. This makes you 0.1 seconds slower in calling people. That 0.1 could be a difference between you getting hexed or silenced before you get your call off. So a pretty big change. Last time we saw this was to Doombringer, and when he was very popular, and he got a massive nerf because of it, and Brewmaster as well. They didn't get necessarily 0.1, but it was like 0.15 or something like that increased in cast time on their ultis, and they simply faded out completely. So Counter Helix now triggers when attacks land rather than when they start. It affects the Centaur's Warrunner's return, and Timbers are reactive as well. Well, that makes sense. So you won't be spinning instantly before you even get attacked. So melee heroes have a fair chance to kill you. That's what it means. And range heroes as well, actually. Culling Blade, movement speed and attack speed are reduced from 40 to 30%. So a lot of nerfs. All of these are nerfs to axe. Brainset mana costs is changed on Bane from 125, 150, 175 to 200 to being 25 less on every single level. Units affected by Nightmare no longer provide vision. I think this is a very curious thing. I think it's really nice, considering how his Axe upgrade already can put people under Nightmare. And Nightmare's End can now be used by Bane to end all other existing nightmares. Hmm. Curious. Flame break damage changed from an um, instant 700, 75, 150, 225 to 300. They're very normal. Like this is the most normal damage scaling on any nuke in Dola. To 50 damage per second for 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. So the overall damage nerf is pretty big. Just doing 50 damage per second for 4 seconds is a lot worse than having a 300 damage burst. Firefly damage is also reduced by 10 on every level, so 2 nerfs to Batrider. But he has been quite popular in this patch. Beastmaster gets very good upgrades here. Beastmaster base damage increased again. He already got like I believe it was 10 damage increase recently. Now he gets 4 more base damage again, so he hits really hard. He's one of the strongest level 1 punching heroes now. I can't remember what his base damage is going to be at total now, but it's really good. Wild Axe's cast point from 0.5 to 0.4, and Call of the Wild Boar attack point from 0.633 for some reason, and goes down to 0.5. So overall, just good buffs to Beastmaster, making him even stronger. And he has been run quite a bit in the previous patch, in the patch before that as well, and I expect to see a lot more Beastmaster now. Bloodseeker Thirst bonus rescaled, so it's not 100. It rescaled from 100 to 25% HP instead of 100 to 0. So you get the same bonuses when the enemy is at 25% as you did when they were at 0 in the previous patch. So this is a buff, a pretty big buff as well. Thirst Vision threshold is going from 30% to 25%. So slight nerf, but I don't think this is a massive thing against other heroes than Slark. Slark is the big one, really. But this buff on how much stronger you get is much bigger than a nerf, I would say. Bounty Hunter gets quite a few touch-ups here. Bounty Hunter intelligence growth goes from 1.4 to 2.0, so 0.6 per level. That's a big increase. Shuriken toss damage is increased to be quite high. The cast range is lower, but they also make the mana cost slightly different in how it scales. More on level 1 and less on level 4 actually compared to previously. And the bounce range is 1200, so you might be able to chase people down, and just by tossing onto a creep, you can bounce for 1200 instead of having your 400 cast range. It's a very big change. So the range is still very good as long as you use your track wisely. Track now shows how much gold the enemy is carrying in the debuff tooltip. This is amazing. I love it. I think that's an awesome change. So Bounty Hunter provides some information there that no other hero in the game can bring you. Exactly how much gold does my enemy hero have, which is very relevant for a hero like Bounty Hunter who's going for pickoffs, because you will know, does he have buyback or not. You can calculate that, right? So this is massive. Really good change. So Bounty Hunter gets a buff, but as for his playability, I'm not sure how much stronger he's gonna be, but it does make him slightly better. And 150 damage on level 1 Shuriken is quite a lot as well. So it's a big change there, and of course, when he has higher level, he is a lot stronger now. Brewmaster, Primal Split no longer provides any bounty. That was irrelevant anyway. Bristleback movement speed is lowered a little bit, and the rescale on armor reduction is not going to make a big difference or anything, but it's instead of 1.122, it's 1.4, 1.8, 2.2. So he gets a slight nerf. The movement speed is just because he has been played a whole lot. As for this being a buff when you do have level 4 on your goo, well, fair enough, but I don't think it's massive. It's also a buff on level 2 though, as it's 1.4 instead of 1. Broodmother incapacitating bite. Words, bro. Is no longer an attack modifier. So you can buy Desolator, you can buy, whatever you want really. Any orb you can buy onto Broodmother now. And I can only imagine how mean she would be with it actually. Insatiable hunger attack damage is increased by a whole lot as well, going up to 120 on max level. In Kappa. Yes, Kappa. Centaur of War Under return now triggers. Yeah, we know that. We read it before. It triggers when the attack lands. Aghanim Scepter added. You can fly over any terrain. This is really sick. When you have Aghanim Scepter, Stampede reduces all incoming damage by 70% and allows allies to run through obstructions like trees and cliffs, and it destroys trees. So you can just rush over the cliffs when you have Ags on center. This is a big upgrade, and I really want to see this in competitive Dota and see how teams would use it. It's a really interesting change that could benefit the support and so on in your team to join even better. So we'll see about that. Pretty curious indeed. Chaos Knight gets a pretty big buff, even though it looks very simple, just one line here. Chaos Bolt minimum damage from 1 to 75. That's a big increase, from 1 to 75 on level 1. And goes up to even being 150 instead of 100. So very nice increase here. And kind of gives some reliability to CK. Skeleton Walk cooldown from 20 to being down to 17 on lowest CD, and Death Pact cooldown also goes down. It's same on level 1, it's 5 less for level 2, and 10 less for level 3. So 10 less cooldown, that's very low cooldown level 16. Pretty dangerous, the level 16 clinks now. Rocket Flare speed is increased a little bit, making for easier snipes. I don't think this is a massive change, but it will help you with getting some of those kills. Crystal Maiden gets quite a few changes here. The Nova movement slow and attack speed slow from -30 to being a little bit worse on level 1. Same on level 2, and then going up to 50% again. It used to be 50% a long time ago, but then they nerfed it. So now they brought it back, but you have to get max level on Nova. Nova slow duration is also rescaled from being 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5 to being 4.5 at all levels. So this is curious. So you still want to max it out though. That 50% slow is massive. Frostbite cooldown reduced from what it previously was to 1 second less. Not a massive change, but you know, 6 seconds instead of 7 seconds is a pretty big deal in a team fight. Might save your life. And Freezing Field cooldown goes down a lot, so skilling it early could be worth it if you have the mana for it. Instead of being 150 CD and not having it for the next team fight, you could actually have it in more of the team fights you go into. Iron Shell duration is increased by 5 seconds. Pretty big for farming on Darkseid, and could definitely help his laning stage quite a bit. The damage dealt by illusions is changed a little bit to be weaker on level 1, weaker on level 2, and then the same on max level. The replica wall is gonna have 45-second duration on every level though, so 3 times the duration of a level 1 ulti. So skilling it on laning phase could be worth it, just to get a level, you know, just to get an illusion at that stage could help you. Mana cost is also changed to be just 125, so very cheap indeed. I think you can use this on your lane just to get a clone of your enemy and start harassing, doing something, even last hitting. Depending on what kind of a lane you're up against, of course. Poison Touch, level 4 damage from 32 to 36. Small buff to the Dazzle, not massive. Death Prophet will get more exorcisms on lower levels, specifically on level 1. She gets 6 instead of 4, but same on max level. Kinetic Field duration is going to be increased by a little bit, so it goes up to 4.4 instead of 4, and 2.6 on level 1. DK. Okay, DK guys. I never really liked this hero a whole lot. I think he's a very plain hero with few mechanics, uninteresting, and just too simple in Dota 2, honestly. But here he does get a little bit of a mechanical change. Breathe Fire now also reduces base damage by 20, 25, 30, 38, 35% for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is a long time. Just think of the duration of the whirling axis. It's fucking forever, you know? This is 1 second longer than forever. So, literally forever. It's gonna be 35% base damage reduction. Very curious. So it becomes pretty strong late game. You should keep in mind. This is a thing that can increase quite a lot as you go into level 25 stage. Corrosive Breath damage is now lethal. Pretty big for DK as well, I would say, as you can chase people down a little bit more effectively with this. Elder Dragon Splash Form attack damage percentage radius from 100, 200, 250 with 175 and 50% damage to 150, so quite a big increase there, and all the way up 225 and then 300, so again, big increase on the last level. So a little bit bigger AoE on him. And DK could be an actual hero now. I mean, I hate the hero, but this is This is a little bit better. So Earth Spirit Boulder Smash damage from 125 to 50, 100, 150, and 200. More damage to this hero is making me very scared reading this. Geomagnetic Grip from mana cost from 75 to 100, and the damage on Grip is from 50, 125, 200, 275 to going to 200. So this is where it balances out. Magnetize can now be dispelled. Thank God. Thank God. Fixed Hex not interrupting Rolling Boulder if cast during the initial 0.6. So a bug fix. Also, keep in mind, this hero has been in Dota 2 forever now. He's still not in Captain's mode. Still not in Captain's mode, even with this touch up. So they're not sure on this hero, and that's because a lot of pro players, when you talk to them, will say that Earth Spirit is crazy how much he brings to the table already on level 3. You can't really compare him to a lot of the current heroes, many would say. But with this change, Magnetize being dispellable and mana cost going up on Grip, I'm not sure. Maybe he will be a little bit better, but I'm still worried about him as well. He's a strong hero. Elder Titan Echo Stomp channel time from 1.8 to 1.6, quite faster, and cooldown also goes down to 11 instead of 15. So Elder Titan being brought back, but not with that insane damage he used to have a long time ago. Instead, just a little bit more for the disable parts. Untouchable attack speed slow is increased by 10 on all levels. The enchant can now be cast to refresh your duration on the enchant. So if you have a satire already and it's about to time out, you can just enchant it again and it will not die. So you become a little bit like a Chen with this. And she will be able to keep 2 creeps forever if she wants to, unless they, get killed. Impetus now pierces spell immunity. This is the biggest change she gets here, because this is gonna make her able to kill PKB heroes, which she really didn't do anything to previously. And PKB was the hard counter to Enchantress. You could not enchant them, Untouchable didn't work, and your Impetus didn't work as well. So now she has one tool against them at least, if she gets to DPS. Midnight Pulse cast point is improved, making it easier to Midnight Pulse into Black Hole. So a little bit more reliable going for that play. 0.3 cast time for Midnight Pulse was pretty long for the cast point. Black Hole now does constant damage of 55, 110, 165 per second, regardless of proximity to the center. Black Hole mana cost is also changed to be slightly cheaper. Not a massive difference though. So small buffs to Enigma. Not a very small buff, though, considering the proximity to the center doesn't matter anymore. So that's quite good. Rocket Barrage no longer has a cast point. Oh yeah. Easier to chase people with Gyrocopter. Roaming Gyro gonna be even better, guys. Call down missile 2 slow duration from 3 to 4 seconds. Quite a long slow now on that one, and that one slows by a good percentage as well. So you could maybe chase them down, and this is gonna make for a lot easier plays when you're diving someone, not having a cast point on that. Huskar gets longer cast range on Inner Vitality, his heal, and the cooldown also goes down to 10 seconds. So a little bit more viability for him. And here, the hero that I have been spam practicing, he gets touched up. But I wouldn't say that he gets the biggest buffs in this patch from what I've been reading so far. But we'll have a look. Int gain is increased by 0.7. Very nice. So you get more int per level. Invoker no longer triggers Invoke no longer triggers cooldown if it only swaps the ability slots. This is massive. This is absolutely massive. In your early game, you will very often find yourself wanting to swap around. If it's your Forge Spirits, if it's your Sunstrike, whatever it is really, this is a very good change for any Invoker player. Sunstrike cooldown goes down from 30 to 25. And here, the most interesting, but maybe the least relevant change to him, I say. But if you go into late game, it will be massive, okay? So max level Deafening Blast, when you have max levels on all your elements, is now a non-targetable circular wave released in every direction around Invoker. So you can like blink in and push everyone. So Blink Dagger on Invoker at level 25 is massive, I think, and it could be really, really useful. So that's a sick spell, but I say it's the least relevant because you need to get to level 25 first, and that takes so long. But granted, if you do go to late game Invoker, a lot more powerful now, I would say, because this is going to mean quite a bit more int, 0.7 per level. So along with Deafening Blast being better and the change to the Sunstrike cooldown as well, slightly stronger. IO gets a touch up. Relocate double click now teleports to Fountain. I can already tell how many people are gonna fuck up. You know, like how many people are gonna fuck up their teleports to gank now. They're like, yeah, let's go, you know, let's kill the troll, and they TP and then they get brought back to Fountain because Wisp double clicked his ulti. It's amazing. I love it. Jakiro base strength is increased from 24 to 25, 19 more HP, a little bit more regen, a little bit stronger. Macrofire duration increased from 7 and 14 in Scepter to 10 and 20. 20 is forever. 20 is actually forever, guys. That's like insanely long duration. So Aghanim Scepter is still very good on him, and the AoE is increased by 15, so slightly better AoE as well. Jakiro getting all over buffs. Oh look, one of the patch big winners from the previous patch. Let's see what happens to Juggernaut. Blade Fear cooldown is from 30 down to 18 to 42 and down to 18. So you really want to max level it now. 42 is pretty long cooldown. Blade Fury now has the same spell immunity on casts dispel behavior as other spell immunities. So it removes stuff. Previously it also removed your positive buffs. Now it will not. Healing Ward movement speed goes down by 30. Very good, because that pesky little thing was impossible to kill if it was microed well. Omni Slash no longer mini stuns on cast, so you can casually TP out, you know? And I will say that, including one more thing. You can Ghost Scepter TP out in this patch. I will say that now. You don't need Boots of Travel to do it. You can use a TP Scroll and Ghost Scepter and get out. And that's massive against a lot of the DPS heroes. So Diffusal Blade is automatically buffed in that regard, or more important. I won't say buffed, it's more important for these heroes to counter the TP out. Using items or abilities in Omni Slash no longer requires you facing the direction. Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of annoying if you had to wait for the bounce to lock out. Okay, Coddle. I'm gonna read like this because you guys are getting ahead of me. Coddle, mana leak cooldown is from 16 to down to 10, and Chakra Magic now adds a buff that reduces the cooldown of the next spell its target casts by 1, 2, or 3, or 4 seconds. Buff lasts for 12 seconds. It only works once, even though it lasts 12 seconds. So your next spell will get the cooldown decreased by 4. Imagine that with something like, well, anything really. If you imagine it with Bristleback, you will get one more quill instantly because it doesn't even have 4-second cooldown. So you can double tap your quills once if you get Chakra from Coddle. Another comparison is working with Gyrocopter. The Rocket Barrage has very low cooldown, so you can spam it even faster with this. And in general, it's just a pretty cool and interesting buff. Also things worth mentioning is stuff like Slardar Stun, which has extremely good uptime already with its stun and its slow, with its cooldown being so low, and Lina Stun. So good interactions there. It also makes it so the Scepter Illuminate heal will go from 75 to 100%. Kunkka no longer turns to cast Torrent. Very big buff there. Torrent cooldown goes down from 12 to 10 seconds, and X marks the spot mana cost from 80 to 50. So all over buffs for Kunkka. Very nice. I wouldn't say any of them is really breaking, but all over. It could help the support Kunkka a little bit, I would say. Legion Commander. She gets a big change to Moment of Courage here. Moment of Courage counterattack chance from 16, 18, 20, and 22 to 25% at all levels. 25% is very, very high, and is stronger than the previous max, so worth mentioning. And lifesteal is also changed to be 55 instead of 20 on low levels, 55 on level 1, and 85 on max, so still stronger than the previous max level. And Moment of Courage, here comes the nerf though. Moment of Courage cooldown from 0.9 to 2.7 and goes to 0.9. So laning wise, you can't really do the same run into the enemy and rely on proccing multiple Moment of Courage. But even just one proc though is going to give you a good 55% lifesteal. So laning, a little bit weaker I would say, but later on in the game, you get extremely much stronger. And here's the coolest part about it. It's time to duel. If you buy Aghanim Scepter, duel will last until either Legion Commander or her target dies. Ends if the duelists are ever more than 2,000 range apart. Well, 2,000 is a very far range. Very few things can cause that, like a Chen Sendback, for example, can cause it. You could maybe cause it with Earth Spirit kicking and pulling. Like turning you into rock will. I'm not even sure. If you turn someone into a rock and kick him away, does the duel end automatically because he's not a hero right now, or does Legion Commander chase after the rock and keep going? That's a curious thing. I'm gonna have to try and check that in some of my games later today. Either way, I really love this upgrade. It's Mortal Kombat, guys. Leshrac movement speed gets increased to 320, just a 5 increase. And that is pretty high though. That's one of the fastest movement speeds in Dota. It's not the fastest, but it's one of the. Lightning Storm cast point is improved to 0.6. It has a very long cast point already. Like it's a very slow cast point, so this is a good change for him. And the slow duration is increased to be almost as strong on level 1 and goes up to be 0.25 seconds longer slow on max level. So overall buffs to Leshrac and quite considerable, I would say. Any hero gets buffed to their movement speed already has a pretty good buff in my opinion, because that's a big part of Dota, just running around ganking. And like movement speed is always good. I see Draskell is in the chat. You're gonna agree with me on this. Draskell very often making the argument, which hero is ever, not gonna benefit from being fast. Lich, Ice Armor cast range is increased, so a little bit easier to armor up the towers, for example, when you're trying to defend without having to go close. Also good if your carry is diving. Chain Frost projectile is increased by 75 as well, so a little bit harder to disjoint the Chain Frost now. And here we have a hero who gets one of the bigger changes in this patch, Lifestealer. Feast is now considered as normal damage, so you can crit off Feast. This is like, let's just stop there. That is massive. Late game, Feast deals tons of damage, and if you buy Daedalus now, you're gonna crit for tons of damage. I think Lifestealer already gets very strong with this, and you can also cleave off it. But who the fuck buys Battle Fury on Lifestealer? Open Wound's lifesteal is now increased, and by quite a bit, 50% instead of 15 and 30 max. 50 is really high, and he also gets an Aghanims. Like you get an Aghanims, you get an Aghanims. And his Aghanims is interesting. It doesn't get your ulti stronger, it grants you a new skill, Assimilate. Assimilate will allow you to pull in a target ally hero and swallow them, allowing them to hide inside you. Any healing that you get is going to be shared with the assimilated hero, and the assimilated hero can release himself. Yeah, that's right, you can't be a dick to your teammates just because you buy Aghanims now. And they can do this at any time by clicking on the buff. Okay, maybe you can be a dick to some people. They won't know how to get out of it. To erupt outward and deal 300 damage and 700 AoE. So they deal damage in a very similar way to your ulti. And if Lifestealer dies or assimilates another hero, the currently assimilated hero will automatically exit. So you're not going to have the Phoenix effect of both of you dying. Issuing an order with your hero a few seconds after being assimilated will take you out. Any order with your hero a few seconds after being assimilated will take you out. Okay, so you have to be careful with that. So don't exit the Lifestealer without being on purpose. But this also means you can infest someone else and have another hero assimilated into you, and you can make a 3-man bomb. So imagine the blink initiation that you can get with this. Lina, Aghanim Scepter upgraded Laguna Blade, no longer gets increased cast range. So that's pretty big. I believe she had like 900 cast range instead of 600 with the Aghanims. Now it's not upgraded. So very big. Lone Druid, also a hero that gets very interesting changes here. His true form will not be disabled when he respawns, same as the Medusa Split Shot and Mana Shield and range form on Troll Warlord. So that's just a convenient thing. You're not gonna have to turn on your true form if you don't want to. Like you don't have to turn on your toggles when you respawn. His battle cry gets better, and 120 damage. This is very big. If I'm not mistaken as well, I'm not a big Lone Druid picker, but I'm pretty positive that it does affect your Necrobooks if you buy a Necrobook. And just looking at these numbers of the damage you can deal is crazy. Battlecry does say on tooltip, I believe it does affect any Lone Druid controlled units, I think. So yeah, this could be insane for a Necro push. Added Aghanim Scepter as well. So the Aghanims is going to make it so that even if you die, your bear won't die, and it will also be able to farm no matter if it's in range to you or not. You can attack even if you're not close to Lone Druid. This is pretty good. Like Bulldog is going to be smiling about this one. This is a really good upgrade, and Lone Druid is also a hero that kind of just pulls money out of his ass. So he can definitely add a 4,200 gold item just to make his bear stronger. And you can chase people down with your bear like mad with this. You can farm the enemy jungle without risking to lose any strong, um, without risking to lose anything really, like a bear resummon maybe. But that's a great upgrade. Luna, base armor increased by 1. Eclipse cap is increased from 4 to 5, so a little bit easier to kill people with your ulti. And she gets an improved Aghanim Scepter. She already had one, but it's improved now. Eclipse will be able to be cast on an area within 2.5k range. That's a very long range to begin with, and it will also grant obstructed vision of that area. So not unobstructed like the Night Stalker, it will be obstructed. It can also target any allied hero, any allied unit, so heroes as well, I assume, to center the eclipse on their location, even while they're moving. So using this on something like a Night Stalker, he can run in really fast and just chase them down. But yeah, that range is really crazy. 2.5k range is really, really good. So Medusa split shot. I can only imagine how hard it's gonna be to fight against this if she gets it. Split shot and mana shield are no longer needed to toggle. Nothing else changes to Medusa. Meepo gets a change to his Geostrike, slightly more damage. It's only 4 more damage on max level, but there's 5 of you, ideally. So it's going to be a decent upgrade in damage on your Geostrike. But Divided Withstand will no longer cause you to respawn 20% faster. This is overall coming out as a nerf to me. And a pretty hefty nerf as well. 20% respawn time was a big deal. And I'm not even sure that Meepo deserved this. Like, was he really being used that much by anyone in this current patch? I don't see a lot of pubbers abuse it, and I don't see a lot of pros abuse it, so I feel he got an undeserved nerf here. A little bit too big of a nerf, but maybe it will even out with something else. We never know. Mirana Starstorm second hit range is increased from 175 to 325, and the second hit will now always strike the closest units to Mirana. So a lot easier to get solo kills, and also a little bit easier to control who you're gonna damage onto in team fights, even just if there's a creep wave close by. Adaptive Strike, yes, the key boss. Adaptive Strike now has a projectile speed, so support morphling is not as crazy, you would think, until you see this. Added Aghanim Scepter for Morphling grants a new ability, Hybrid. Allows Morphling to target an ally, turning himself into a hybrid illusion. Removing the Morphling himself, the hybrid illusion can cast non-ultimate abilities and has your original attribute. Lasts 20 seconds, and when the duration ends or the hybrid dies, your hero emerges. Cannot end prematurely. Cooldown 140, 200 mana cost, 600 cast range. Note ability is not available while you have Replicate Living. This is so strong. Imagine all the combos you could pull. You could have double Nether Wards. You could have 2 Linas. Sure, she doesn't have ulti, but it's still a really strong strong hero just by the stun durations you could have. You could have 2 Tombstones. There are a lot of dangerous combinations here. Imagine Centaur. Like, ooh, the combos are scary, guys. They're really, really scary. So Aghanims are morphing. I want to see it though, but the duration is not so long, so that's the balance there. 20 seconds is not a very long duration. And it doesn't matter if your hybrid dies, your hero will emerge. So you don't have to be careful even, you can just keep going. Yeah, 2 techies, that's a great call, guys. You could rush in and suicide, and when you suicide, your hero is gonna spawn where the fake techie was. So like, oh man, that's really crazy, you know? Like really, really strong combinations can be pulled by this. And Snare cooldown goes down from 14 to 12, and Snare is now dispellable. It can still be cast on spell immune targets though, so you can easily break it, and it's no longer removed if the target becomes ethereal. So Ghost Scepter is not going to stay. Aghanim Scepter added. She will heal allies and herself by 6% of maximum HP per second for up to 7 seconds. So when Naga goes in with ulti, it's actually gonna heal her and her allies as well. And by 42%, that's a very strong heal, you know? Especially as the enemy will be kept down. Imagine the ideal scenario if you use your ulti when the enemy has BKB on one target, everyone in your team is getting healed, and you fight against a BKB target. This is a really strong Aghanims, I think. Support Naga is definitely buffed with this, so interesting to see. Very, very curious. And you don't really want to initiate with it anymore. Now you kind of want to just wait and go. And here's another of Bulldog's favorite heroes. Sprout cast range is increased. 850 is a big increase on max level, even stronger on level 1 as well than it used to be. Duration goes up as well to 6 seconds on max level. And Nature's Call treant base damage from 22 to 28. That's a big buff. Like, it may not seem like a huge buff, but when you consider how many treants you have, even on the laning stage, if you offlane Nature's Prophet, very often you will start on the first creep wave with having 4 treants, because you summon in base, run out, summon again, and then you fight the enemy. So it's just a 6 damage increase, but even on level 1, that's going to be a 6 times 4 damage increase, making it a lot easier to last it as well. And he gets an Aghanims. Of course, everyone gets an Aghanims, so let's see what it does. The upgrade now makes Wrath of Nature spawn a Nature's Call treant whenever it kills a unit. Okay, so you're gonna have treants everywhere. That's just crazy. Like, you kill a lot of units with your Agh's ulti. So you will have plenty of treants. And second, killing a hero will spawn an even stronger treant, 3 times the damage and health of a normal one. Like, 3 times the damage is like, okay, it's pretty strong, but 3 times the health is a lot of HP as well. It could tank pretty well when you're pushing. So Axe Nature's Prophet is no longer a bad build, I would say. You could do a lot with this. Night Stalker gets a buff as well, which is curious because he has been played a lot in FPL, for example, and the buff is not massive, but it's 15% more attack speed slow, so it matches the movement speed slow during Void. But 50% attack speed slow is pretty strong. You can't really fight against him though. No other change really though. Nyx Assassin. This is possibly the hero that gets the most interesting buff to his Aghanims, so let's just start with that. Aghanim Scepter upgraded to Nyx. New ability added. You can burrow. With 1 second cast time, you will burrow, and while you're burrowed, you're invisible and unable to move or attack. But you have 40% damage resistance and regenerate 1.5% of your health and mana per second. That's pretty big. You can already use this as a way to sustain yourself. Nyx Assassin's abilities also have improved properties while burrowed. Mana Burn and Impale have 50% increased cast range. Impale cooldown is reduced from 13 to 9, and Spike Carapace instantly stuns any enemy units within 300 area of effect without requiring them to hurt him first. So he's basically the lurker. He is StarCraft now. Casting Vendetta costs a Burrow to end. You can also use Spike Carapace during Vendetta without removing it. So overall, very considerable buff to Nyx Assassin, and I can only imagine how he's going to be the lurker in the teamfight, just burrowing himself. So very curious. To me, I like these Aghanims upgrades though, because they're not just a level 4 ultimate. They're not just improving your ulti by making it, that little bit stronger, but they're giving some new abilities, they're giving new mechanics, they're adding more stuff. And to me, it's very interesting. It makes for more exciting plays, I think. Omni Knight Purification cast point is from 0.5 to 0.4. Purifying Flames. Mana cost is reduced from, dear God, I just checked how long we've been reading already. It's almost 1 hour and we're like halfway. Okay. Purifying Flames mana cost is reduced to go down to 80 on max level instead of 100. And the cooldown goes down from 3 to 2.5. Purifying Flames can now target non-hero units. False Promise. So the ulti of Oracle gets a pretty big change here. it no longer makes the target invisible. So you can't sneak in and ward, you can't sneak in and surprise kill someone, and you don't always have to carry detection against Oracle, so that's pretty good. But False Promise now continuously removes debuffs and disables instead of first when it cast. So he's basically Slark. Anyone who gets targeted by False Promise is going to be Slark for the duration of it, which is going to be changed to 8 seconds on max level and 6 on level 1. And False Promise cooldown also goes from 20 to 80, 60, and 40. So here comes the big nerf, right? Instead of being 20. So good rebalance here, but he's going to be very annoying. Whoever gets buffed by False Promise, for 8 seconds you can't stop them at all. That is really frustrating. OD gets an Aghanim Scepter change. It will now upgrade so that everyone in the area of effect when you cast your ulti will get Astral Imprisonment after it deals damage. So as soon as the ulti is cast, it deals damage first and then imprisons everyone in the area. I'm not sure if that's going to include yourself. If you cast it on top of yourself, that could make for some easy fuck-ups on the ulti if that's the case. It doesn't really say. It says everyone, so I would assume that it does imprison yourself as well. Aghanim Scepter Sanity Eclipse no longer always triggers the mana drain, and does not increase the damage multiplier by 1. Alright, so a little bit balanced there, but imagine a Refresher Ags combo on OD. That could be a really, really strong ulti. But still curious though. If you cast it incorrectly, I can only imagine it being similar in detrimental effects to Loda Sphere if you mess up here. Phoenix Fire Spirits now does obstructed reveal of the area it hits for 1 second. So you could see invisible stuff by scouting with Fire Spirits. Could give some nice D wards and whatever. If you're curious. Waning Rift gets a damage increase, 100 on level 1 instead of 70, but on max level it's the same. Pudge, here's the Dendy hero, getting 6% more slow on max level than he previously had. So 26% is pretty good. And here we go, changes to Pugna, quite a lot of them as well. Decrepify enemies slow from 50 to 30, 40, 50, and 60. Decrepify enemy magic resistant amplification from 50 to the same 30, 40, 50, 60. So max level a buff to both of those, but low levels a nerf to both of those. Duration on Decrepify is changed from being improving from 2 to 3.5 to always being 3.5. So that's pretty good buff for him. Cooldown also goes up a little bit from being 12 to level 1 to being 15, but still the same on max level. So the max level of the Decrepify is only improved. Life drain, damage, and restore per second is increased by quite a bit from 120 to 150 on level 1 and 220 instead of 200 on max level. And the cast range is changed from 110 on all levels to being 900, 1050, and then 1200. So weaker until you get to that level 16. And Aghanim's Scepter Life Drain no longer increases the cast range. So curious changes. I'm not sure if I like it so much, but he gets slightly better overall with this. Not a massive change though. Ricky, Smokescreen no longer slows attack speed, so you can try and fight back against Ricky, but remember, he still has the silence on you and the mischance, so it's still not gonna be easy. It also reduces turn rate. Dear God, why? Dear God, don't fight in the dust, guys. Just run in a straight direction and run out of the smoke, and then go for life. Like this is really terrible. This is really terrible for anyone who gets jumped by Ricky, because it means if Ricky is fast enough and you try to turn to fight him, he's actually gonna run around you and just keep attacking you in the back. So could be very, very terrifying. Rubik Nullfield now also affects creeps, making him not only stronger in pushes in general, but also making him a lot better with heroes like Chen. You know, the pushing combination is going to be a lot better if you can apply that magic resistance to strong creeps from Chen, for example. Sanking Caustic Finale duration is from 8 to 6. Caustic Finale now always triggers by a unit death or when the duration expires. If triggered by timer, it deals 30% of the damage, but it will always trigger. Caustic Finale no longer resets the duration on a unit that already has the debuff. So if you're fighting someone and you attack them, then the debuff will apply and start timing out, and you can keep hitting them, and they're still gonna take the damage from Caustic Finale as soon as it runs out, and you can apply it again afterwards. Caustic Finale now applies 20% movement slow when the damage triggers by unit death or when timer expires. Slow lasts for 3 seconds. So basically, it's an angry Scorpion. He's a lot more angry now. He can chase you and right click you a little bit more. So the solo kill potential for Sanking is a little bit increased, not by the ulti jump, but by just stunning and attacking and chasing people down. He could be more terrifying. Shadow Demon. We already kind of went down and searched for the break just to show that his Aghanim's ulti applies break now, which is a massive thing, disabling passive abilities. And it's really, really not a bad upgrade now. And mana cost on Shadow Poison is decreased from 50 to 40, making his laning stage a little bit stronger. I could totally see SD being used on mid lane now. I could totally see it being a mid hero. Shadow Shaman, right back from the gym. He has been increased his base strength by 2 and his strength gain by 0.2. So more tankiness for the Shadow Shaman. 38 more HP on level 1 is not bad. Silencer base movement speed is reduced. So James, sorry bro, but he gets some really good buffs still. He gets really good buffs. It will no longer situationally disarm, and the enemy cast allowance window is from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, so you have shorter time to react. And Last Word now applies a 14, 16, 18, 20% movement speed slow when it triggers. When it triggers in general, like not even after the duration, it just, when it triggers, it will slow you. That is really terrifying. 20% slow on a hero like this. The carry silencer is buffed a lot by this, but even the support silencer coming in and slowing you could be really, really effective. Yes. So Slithering Crush gets increased in damage from 50 to 75. Pretty big change on level 1. And goes up to 225. May not seem like a massive increase, but keep in mind, this is physical damage, and it will be applied, it will be buffed by minus armor on the enemy. And you have one of the best minus armors in the game, minus 10 armor on level 6. So you will apply a lot of extra damage using this. Sniper. Woohoo! Aha! It is time. Sniper agility gain from 2.9 to 2.5. Sniper shrapnel recharge time increased from 40 to 55. Shrapnel delay increased from 0.8 to 1.4. Shrapnel now gives vision when the shrapnel lands instead of instantly. Headshot can now miss. Assassinate damage from 355 to 655 to 320 to 650. Boom. Nerfed. Just like that. Like, he won't even be that annoying anymore. Sure, we will still, have some post-traumatic stress from all the hoo-hoo haha we've been hearing. And I see you guys in chat are still trying to recover. But this is a big nerf. This is a lot of nerfs. He actually got 6 different nerfs. Spectre. Reality no longer kills the target illusion. It only swaps positions. I tried to think about this, and it's not gonna be a massive change, but it could change something in team fights. If you're already close and personal to your enemy hero, but you want to, say you're just at a 500 range away or something, swapping position is pretty good because you'll, part 1, get there so you can diffuse or slow them or whatever, but also your illusions are very fast. They have a set movement speed and they are really, really fast. They also get increased movement speed with stuff like Yasha. I think they have 400 set movement speed and get the percentage increases, so your illusion could catch up pretty quickly. And it could be good if you're jumping from target to target. Spirit Breaker. Empowering Haste cooldown goes down. So another one of those heroes that are super popular right now in FPL gets increased. Same as Night Stalker. So the cooldown on Empowering Haste is improved. It may not seem like a big deal, but that's a lot of movement speed for your entire team. And 4-second cooldown is a big increase, or a big fix for him. Storm Spirits, another one of the big patch winners in previous patch. He gets the -5 movement speed, same as Silencer, and his Ball Lightning no longer gives 1,000 flying vision. He gets 400. So a lot harder for him to chase people down unless he makes an accurate jump straight from the get-go. Still not terrible nerfs for him though. I would say he's Still fully playable. If you have a Shivas, you don't give a shit about this change because Shivas applies flying vision for you as well. So just click the Shivas when you're jumping in and you're fine. And 5 movement speed, who really cares on Storm Spirit? So I think he's still very good. He's still very, very good. Sven, Warcry armor bonus increased to be 20 on max level instead of 16, and of course 5 instead of 4. So slight nerf, or a slight buff to Sven, but yeah, it's not huge. 4 armor is kind of considerable, but still not huge. He's already pretty good. And here we go, one of my favorite heroes, and I can see my next favorite hero down there. The good old Techie. Let's check what he gets. He gets one of my favorite upgrades in the entire patch, guys. Landmine activation delay is reduced by 1.75 to 0.5, so much faster landmines, making it easier to farm on lane, easier to push towers, and in general, if you're being chased, you can maybe drop a landmine and kill the enemy easier. So that's a big change for Techie. Stasis trap activation delay is improved as well. Detonation delay is also improved. Detonation delay is bigger though, because activation is like from when you put down the trap to when it's active and able to detonate. But detonation delay is how quickly it will react when someone comes into the AoE. And with 2-second detonation delay, people could run over your entire stasis trap if they ran straight and ran fast. So this is going to make it a little bit easier to catch people. Suicide Squad attack cooldown is decreased to be 100 on max level. Very low cooldown indeed, for a skill of that magnitude. Minefield cooldown from 120 to 360. Alright, 360 cooldown on Minefield. And Minefield sign now requires Techie to walk precisely to the targeted spot, so he can't really cast it from afar. Minefield cooldown now has an area of effect targeting cursor. Yes, we're getting to something here. It will be a useful spell. Minefield sign now has a limited lifetime of 180 seconds. 180 seconds, 360 cooldown, meaning you will have a downtime, right? Techie's Aghanim Scepter upgrade now causes the Minefield sign to make all landmines, stasis traps, and remote mines within 125 area of effects immune to true sight, and you can only have one sign out at a time. Let that sink in. So for 180 seconds you have a downtime on placing it, meaning it's kind of hard to keep it up at all times, but it does mean that your high ground defense is insanely buffed. Insanely buffed. You are so much harder to kill, and I'm gonna try and make some tricks with the landmine sign today that I could imagine will work really well. Okay, I can tell you already what the trick is gonna be. So the trick that I can imagine you can pull with Techie now is putting your Minefield sign in the tree line where you previously hit your remotes, and put the remotes out on the lane, so you actually not only have hidden remotes because they're in the AoE of 125, but they also provide the vision, because that used to be the hard thing. Playing a good Techie, you would hide remotes in the tree lines so the enemy did not see them and you could build them up from there. But maybe now, I'm not 100%, maybe you can put the Minefield sign in the tree line and have the traps, your remote traps outside, so you actually get vision when the enemy walks over as well. That would be big. So very good buffs to Techie. He's going to be very happy with this. And here's my next favorite hero. Gets a lot less buffs, but still, I'm gonna take it. Templar Assassin melt cooldown goes from 7 to 6. So a little bit faster burst. Not gonna massively impact your gameplay or anything, but she's a little bit more scary now in general. And I do like that. Terrorblade reflection cast range is improved, and reflection damage goes up to 100% now. So skilling it is quite important. 100% damage, if you manage to put this on the enemy carry, it's truly the definition of why you're hitting yourself. And Terrorblade is going to be much stronger at man fighting when he can get the reflection onto an enemy as well. Damage block on Tidehunter is improved on Kraken Shell to go up to 48. So he's blocking even more damage. I thought he was already blocking plenty, but guess not. Even more, huh? And next, Timber Saw reactive armor now only triggers when the attacks land. We already saw that previously. And same change as the Sven armor, really, getting up to 20 instead of 16 and 5 on level 1. So slightly stronger now, the Timber Saw, but it's also a nerf to him, and he is the one that gets affected the most, I would say, by the reactive armor change. That attacks have to land before they give the armor, because previously you would have a little bit bonus armor for every single attack they gave onto you. Now you will get it after they harass you. But still, he gets stronger when he's max level. Tinker, Laser Hero Blind Duration increased from 3 to 4.5. So a longer duration Laser Blind? Okay. Rearm mana cost is rescaled from 150 to 125 and goes down to 325 instead of 350. Okay, 2 buffs in a row. Aghanim Scepter Laser no longer has additional cast range. Okay, but why did it get buffed? And then it comes Aghanim Scepter Laser now refracts to visible enemy heroes with a 550 bounce range. So he can bounce the laser, and laser deals pure damage. It hurts a lot, and applying an even longer blind duration, the Tinker could be pretty terrifying. Also, there's an upgrade to Boots of Travel in this patch, which is massive for Tinker, because the upgraded Boots of Travel, I'm getting ahead of myself again, but I feel I do this when there's a relevant hero to talk about. Upgraded recipe on Boots of Travel is going to make it so you can bring an allied hero, and that way Tinker can TP somewhere, rearm, and bring an allied hero to there as well. So Tinker gets quite a good buff in this patch. And here's a hero that gets a good buff, and one that I think should have been implemented a long time ago. Tiny grab radius is increased, first of all, by 25, and he will always grab the closest unit rather than a random unit. What this means, in effect, is that you might want to consider buying face boots, because that way you can face boots run in and really be on top, or rather underneath, the hero that you want to toss. So this is gonna be curious. Oh, you teleport to the hero. Oh yeah, I misread it. I'm sorry, guys. I misread the Boots of Travel. That's not as interesting for Tinker then. All right. All right. That's not gonna pull your allies then. Tree and Ice in the Forest area of effect is reduced by 800 to 700, so a little bit less spammy trees, and that's probably good because it really feels annoying when he takes over the entire jungle now. Troll Warlord, Berserker's Rage no longer applies plus 15 damage. Ranged Whirling Axes no longer provide 800 vision. Melee Whirling Axes no longer provide 500 vision. Trance Duration reduced from 7 to 5. And Berserker's Range is no longer movement on death. These 4 nerfs, though, are pretty big. The 15 damage nerf is going to hurt his laning stage so much that we won't have to worry much about Troll being insanely strong at farming anymore. Because, yeah, as I said, 15 damage is a massive nerf. Next we get Tuskar. Ice Shard's mana cost is reduced from 120 to 90. Already a pretty good buff. The cooldown also goes down slightly. It's higher on level 1 though. The reveal is increased from 0.5 to 2 seconds. And Snowball is now a constant 675 movement speed, which makes me a little bit sad. You can no longer make the super fast Snowball by loading up all your allies. But Snowball now no longer autoloads the units in 100 range. He can now pull people in when he's snowballing. Okay, that's amazing. I do like that part. And Aghanim Scepter is added. He now gets a new ability called Walrus Kick. Kicks the unit back 900 units. The kick slows for 40% over 4 seconds. It has a 12-second cooldown. Alright, so he's basically like an Earth Spirit now as well. This makes him so much stronger at controlling in fights, but I'm curious to how are you going to farm up an Aghanim Scepter on this hero. As a support, it's tough, and where do you want to run him right now? As a mid laner, not really. As an off laner, he's so like you can snowball to survive, but you have to snowball into the enemy. But But if you manage to farm him up, like I'm starting to think maybe as a force support or maybe as a hardcore carry, you could run Tusk. But of course, carry Tusk does sound pretty ridiculous, and I'm not sure if it's going to work against a lot of heroes. Maybe the mid lane is where he should be after all. He could pick up the farm there. But that's the only one downside that I see to this hero. He's hard to run, but for support is probably the best. Undying. Soul Rip is now considered 1 damage instead of multiple damages, so yay, a buff for my TA, indirectly. Remove Tombstone Zombie targeting from Soul Rip. Alright. Tombstone Zombies now require 1 attack to kill rather than having 30 health. Zombies require 2 hits from creeps. So he just gets nerfed. Really. That's all he gets. So they thought he was slightly too strong. Still very curious. It does feel kind of strange. Anyway, let's go into Ursa. Ursa gets rework on Enrage, so his ulti gets a change. Ursa goes into a frenzy, causing him to take 80% less damage from any source, and for his attacks to deal 2, 2.5, and 3 times the Fury swipe's damage. Removes any existing debuffs upon cast. Alright, Ursa. You're like Slark now. Okay, we have one more Slark, guys. At least he has a very long cooldown on his ulti as well, and the duration is very short. But this should mean that he can Roshan even easier, I believe. Granted though, you could already kill Roshan on level 4, so I don't think that changes much. This is more about the fact that if you jump in, attack like 2 or 3 times, and then pop your ulti, hell, you could pop your ulti instantly as well, because that's fine. But if you're man fighting someone in the ultra late game and you get a few hits onto him and then pop your ulti and overpower and swipe them even more, you could kill them very quickly. And yeah, this is very curious that he can remove debuffs as well as taking 80% less damage, making him terrifying as he jumps in. Venomancer Gale gets some damage on level 1. It's the biggest part about it. 10 more damage on all levels, but it has a damage on level 1 on the tick damage. Viper Strike cooldown is now gonna go down. I don't think that's a big change at all. That's like this is the smallest buff in the entire patch, I think. 10-second less cooldown on level 1 Viper Strike is like, alright. Gravekeeper's Cloak recharged time from 6 to 4. Familiars no longer have 300, 450, or 600 health. Instead, they require 4 hero attacks to be killed, and Creep's Illusion do 1/4 of the damage, and Towers do 1/2 of the damage. Interesting. So this is a very good buff for Visage. Of course, quick hitting heroes with long range will kill them very easily now, but you cannot kill them off with, stuff like Anchor Smash won't damage it at all anymore. So Tidehunter is no longer a counter to Visage, for example. So very curious change, and we'll see how it will get implemented. Warlock Fatal Bond's cast range is increased, and Fatal Bond's casting time is also improved to 0.2. Not a massive change, I would say, but it makes it easier to combo with your ulti. Chaotic Offering Golem Health Regeneration is increased by quite a bit. 10 more on level 1, but 30 more on max level, 20 more on second level. So your golems are going to regenerate much faster, which is going to be considerable for Warlock. I think that's definitely the biggest change that he gets here, is the regeneration. Weaver, another hero that gets one of the most interesting changes, is this Aghanim Scepter here. Aghanim Scepter upgrade to Weaver reduces the cooldown of time-lapse to 20 seconds and allows time-lapse to be targeted on allied heroes, 1000 range. So you can send your allies back in time? That's actually amazing. I'm not even mad on that one. 20-second cooldown is really low though, so like you can see some curious play from Weavers now. Really interesting. Let's read his other changes as well. The swarm duration is rescaled from 14, 16, 18, 20 to 16 seconds. The damage is lowered to 20, but the swarm attack rate, instead of having an attack every 1.35 seconds, to having having 1.4, 1.25, 1.1, and 0.95 seconds per attack. So it's quite a bit faster on max level. So even though the damage is being reduced, the fact that you attack faster with your swarm makes you apply more minus armor, and then your damage is gonna balance out and definitely deal more damage towards the late stages of your ulti, and more importantly, make you deal more damage as a hero. Gemini attack now launches the second projectile 0.25 seconds after the initial one instead of after impacting the target. So quicker bursts, just making Weaver a little bit better and stronger here. Gemini attack no longer has a range limit, so it won't disjoint. And overall, Weaver gets very good buffs, I would say. Windrunner, one of the shortest buffs, but also could be considerable. Her cast point of Shackle Shot is cut in half. So it's much more instant. You can react better when you're fighting in clutch areas. Windrunner is going to be a slightly improved than the previous one. And here we go. Winter Wyvern, newcomer, just comes into Dota 2 and says, hey bro, I want to be in Captain's mode. Is that cool? You don't mind our spirit? Okay, I'll go right into Captain's mode. So they reworked Winter's Curse right as they introduced him as well. Those cursed to attack their ally now take 70% less damage from all sources. Alright, so the ulti is not insanely strong anymore, right? AoE is increased though by 50, and the duration is from 2.5, 2.75, and 3 to 2.5, 3, 3.5. And the cooldown is increased. So, pretty big touch up here, but the 70% less damage onto the people who are forced to attack an ally is going to make him more balanced for sure. I think he would be too strong if we implemented the previous Winter Wyvern. Arctic Burn is now dispellable. Arctic Burn damage is from 6% to 8%, and it's now magic instead of pure, so it balances out. Arctic Burn no longer pierces spell immunity, so BKB heroes won't be slowed down and take damage over time, so stuff like that won't be applied by Winter Wyvern. Splinter's Blast has increased speed, and the Splinter Blast is also dispellable now. This hero used to be the complete non-dispellable hero, but now everything is like, okay, we can remove it. Cold Embrace now behaves as normal regeneration instead of 0.1 interval heals. Overall, the hero gets some pretty considerable nerfs here, but since he's into Captain's mode, you would expect nothing else. He might get completely underplayed, and then he could get buffs again, but we'll see if that's the case or not. Wraith King added Aghanim Scepter. Dude, there are so many Aghanim Scepters in this patch, I can't even remember how many. If anyone in chat knows exactly how many there are, please let me know. So his Aghanim's upgrade makes it so allies who are near Wraith King within 1200 AoE, when slain, become Wraiths for 5 seconds, delaying their death. They can continue attacking, casting, etc. And when the duration ends, the hero dies. The credit goes to a kill for whoever landed the original killing blow. Thank you so much, the 69, the 34, 420. Okay. I believe it's 420 Aghanim Scepters. Probably. So this is a curious Aghanim's upgrade anyway, and I'm not sure that it's really understood how good this could be. Because imagine when the enemy pull off a big combo on you, like they RP you, they burst all of you, and they team wipe you. Instead of just dying, you have 5 seconds to return and kill your enemy as well. So it's pretty considerable. Zeus, we're down to the last hero. Thunder God's Wrath, area vision reduced from 1000 to 500, but as we said previously, fixed Thunder God's Wrath, sometimes hitting invisible units depending on order of player slots. Enchanted Mangle, new consumable. Costs 150 gold, provides 1 HP regen. Use consume the mango to instantly restore 150 mana, can be fed to an ally. Note, multiple mangoes do not stack in one slot. So you keep one of these and it's going to give you HP regen, but then you can use it and it will instantly give you 150 mana. It can also be fed to an ally. Enchanted Chaos Mango. Beautiful, guys. Beautiful. Lotus Orb. A new item formed from Perseverance, Plate Mail, and a recipe. Let's have a look at what it does. The Perseverance, Plate Mail, and Recipe, total cost 4,050, provides 5 HP regen, 125% mana regens, and 10 damage, 10 armor. It can be disassembled. Active Echo Shell targets an allied unit, dispelling negative debuffs, normal dispel, not stuns, and applying an Echo Shell buff for 6 seconds. While the Echo Shell is active, it recasts all the targeted spells back at its caster. 17-second cooldown, 100 mana cost, 900 cast range. Huh. So it does not block the spell, but it will mirror it back to whoever casts it. Same targeting rules as Lincoln Sphere. Pretty interesting component here. It's also a very nice build-up, I would say. Perseverance, Plate Mail, and then the Recipe, which is not too expensive. So you can make people doom yourself. Definitely a nice increase. There are plenty of new items here as well. So let's check the next one. Glimmer Cape. New item formed from Cloak and Shadow Amulet. Glimmer Cape is a 950 gold item. Gives some magic resistance and attack speed. Can be disassembled. Glimmer targets an allied unit, makes it invisible after 0.4 fade time. While invisible, it gains 66% magic resistance. Lasts 5 seconds. The invisible unit is allowed to move during the 5 seconds, but attacking or casting a spell will cost 0.4 second fade time to trigger again. 16-second cooldown, 16 cooldown, and 900 cast range, can be cast while channeling. So this could be good against some teams that don't have an AoE stun, meaning that you could, for example, use your Crystal Maiden ulti while invis or Witch Doctor ulti while invis, and you're not gonna die to their nukes that easily because you have a very high magic resistance. So Witch Doctor ultis, Crystal Maiden ultis, these kind of things are gonna be more difficult to deal with now unless you have some good stuns. New item formed from Arcane Boots and Mechanism and a Recipe, Guardian Greaves. So very expensive, 1650 gold Recipe and the mech and Arcane Boots. But mech and Arcane Boots go well together, so building them into one item, you will get all the stats from it, and you get a passive that gives you HP and armor, and then when a target's health is lower than 20%, it instead provides 15 armor, and 15 health regen. So very good item in a team fight. This can make a very big difference for whoever gets focused down. And after a team fight as well, 15 HP regen is very quick. It has an active called Mend, which gives mana and health to nearby allies. It removes negative debuffs from the caster upon cast. A lot of stuff that removes debuffs in this current patch. Note, the dispel will only affect your hero, so it doesn't dispel for everyone. And here, an item that I really love, and I welcome it as a farmer and a carry player or a mid player. Moonshard. It's formed from 2 hyperstones and a very cheap recipe, so 4.3k gold. It gives 120 attack speed. It has a passive that gives you 250 night vision when in your inventory. It works against the Night Stalker's darkness, so this vision should not be reduced at all by the darkness, I assume. And use can be consumed to gain a permanent 60 attack speed buff. Requires double click to consume. Note, attack speed buff do not work on illusions. Yeah, I know that, Ice Frog. Come on now. Who do you think we are? But that means there's one more item that you can consume. So the late game potential between Alchemist being able to buff people and that you can consume the attack speed item of Moonshard, late game is very dangerous. And you can get really like 8 slotted on Alchemist now, or even more if you consider the fact that you can buff your teammates. Silver's Edge. Silver Edge, new item formed with Shadowblade and Sange and a recipe. The Shadowblade 2.8, Sange 2.05, and then recipe for 350. So 5,200 gold. It provides you all the stats that you should get, and then Lesser Maim and Shadow Walk. In this attack now deals 225 damage and also applies Break. Remember, Break, disabling a lot of passives, disabling stuff like the Lunar Glaives, the Blessing, Take Aim, Headshot, Psyblades, plenty of different things, right? And it also reduces the enemy target's damage output, all damage types, by 40% for 5 seconds. 24-second cooldown, so lower cooldown than Shadow Blade. And attacking to end invisibility cannot miss. Debuff does not pierce spell immunity. This is a very strong item actually, and now makes it so you can transition your Shadow Blade into a good late game item. You can upgrade and get some good buffs to it. The lower cooldown is a very big part of it, but also the fact that you can disable passives is huge. Could be used against heroes like Slark, could be used by the Slark as well, but imagine hitting Slark with this. He cannot, for that duration, man fight you that well because he doesn't have Essence Shift for 5 seconds. So, very interesting. I assume that it's 5 seconds duration. It doesn't really say how long duration it is, but I assume it's the same as the slow type, or the damage reduction. Okay, next item, Solar Crests, a new item for a Medallion of Courage and Talisman of Evasion. Medallion of Courage, 1200 gold, Talisman of Evasion, 1800 gold, 3k gold for an item that gives the stats of it 10 armor actually, so even more. And active, loses the Solar Crest armor and evasion. When targeting an ally, grants them 10 armor, 30% evasion. When targeting an enemy, removes 10 armor and applies 30% miss for 7 seconds. Cooldown 7 seconds. So an upgrade to Medallion is very welcome to see, and I think it's an interesting thing to be able to either give evasion to teammates or give miss to the enemy. And pretty strong item, I would say. Octarine Core, new item formed of Mystic Staff and Soul Booster, 2 very expensive items. So 5.9k. This is one new real, late game tier item. So Octarine Core, what does it do? 25 int, 450 HP, 400 mana, 4 HP regen, 100 mana per 100% mana regen. Passive cooldown reduction reduces all cooldowns by 25%. Dude, this is some really good item for Invoker. This is very interesting because Invoker has so many different spells. Lowering cooldown on them is not a bad thing at all. And for many other heroes as well, reducing cooldown can be huge. I can only see like good old Keeper of Light getting his lowering in the cooldown of ally spells. And yeah, you guys are saying, I knew you guys would say this. We League of Legends now. We Han now. We League of Legends. Say what you want. I think this very expensive item is an interesting component to your late game arsenal. Also gives you a thing that could be too strong though. I'm not sure about this one. Spell Lifesteal restores health for a percentage of any damage dealt from spells, 25% from heroes, and 5% from creeps. Like, that's insanely good. That's like crazy good. Imagine how good that is gonna be if you pull off a meatball combo with Invoker. You're gonna have a full HP, like for sure. So I'm not sure about that. I think it's probably too strong, the 25% lifesteal. Yeah, even Timber. Timber could be so strong with this. Good call, guy who called for Timber in chat. Yeah, this is terrifying for sure. This is terrifying. Zeus as well, of course, a natural hero for this, but I think Timber is even more terrifying. Observe wards and center wards, they can now share one inventory slot. Double-clicking toggles which ward type is currently active. Really nice, huh? Really nice. Upgrade on Boots of Travel. Boots of Travel can now be upgraded by purchasing the recipe again. Allows you to target and teleport to allied heroes. Target and teleport to allied heroes. Curious. So that means that you can like maybe sometimes help out allies even when they're being chased down. You could go there and actually back out. So still a very good upgrade for someone like Tinker. It is expensive though to upgrade by buying the Boots of Travel recipe again. But very nice item still. Yeah, Tinker is gonna be strong. And I really like that you can share the inventory slots on wards. I think that's massive. More item changes. Skull Basher strength is increased. Damage is reduced, but the bash deals 60 damage now. Bash cooldown increased from 2 to 2.3, so less perma bashing. Damage is decreased on the Abyssal Blade as well by the same, and bash deals 60% or 60 damage, and the cooldown is decreased. Um, Energy Booster is a little bit cheaper now, and Arcane Boots have bigger AoE and doesn't cost 35 mana to activate. So overall, nice buff to the Arcane Boots here. Bloodstone Recipe increased its cost, so it will change towards the energy booster cost, so it still costs the same. Armlet of Mordigian attack speed is increased, and they remove the Unholy Strength. So the active doesn't give you the attack speed, you always have it. And Unholy Strength gain period is going to be quicker, so a little bit faster HP gain when you Armlet toggle, but you get the same HP just over 0.6 seconds instead. Killing Blade changed from full damage bonus to base damage bonus, so it's not an item you really want to keep into mid-late game, as you tried on Medusa and some other heroes, Anti-Mage and so on. You don't care so much about the Killing Blade after the laning stage, but for a while you can still keep it. The damage bonus is from 32 and 12 to 40 and 15. So the increase on your base damage is still very nice though. Some heroes can benefit well from this. No longer able to deal bonus damage to Roshan. That was a massive part in the previous patch. The fact you could do that was insane. That's why the Juggernaut and the Troll could just Killing Blade kill Roshan very quickly. Troll didn't even need the Killing Blade to be honest, but it was still a 32% in speed up on your Roshan timing. Chop active ability will now kill wards rather than dealing 100 damage. So you just chop, instant kill a ward, and you can use it on 450 range. Battle Fury. Battle Fury now requires and provides the bonuses of Killing Blade. Alright, so we'll keep it then. Kill bonus is now 60% for melee heroes and 25 for range heroes. Dude, I'm calling it. We're gonna see the Battle Fury Medusa come back. Like, I swear to God, Black is gonna buy the Cowling Blade and then be like, fuck, I can upgrade this, and then he's gonna buy the full thing. The Battle Fury Windrunner will probably come back as well. Cleave radius is increased as well, and the damage is reduced slightly, but 60% of your base damage is quite a lot. So very nice for Battle Fury indeed. BKB can now be sold, which everyone pretty much thought was fair in the previous patch. A lot of people have mentioned on different forums that you should be able to sell it, since if you buy it again, you will have the same cooldown anyway. So repurchasing does not reset the duration. Damage return cooldown is reduced. Alright, small buff to Blade Mail. Small change in cost here on the face boots through the Blades of Attack, and of course other items as well. Face boots duration is lowered a little bit. Boots travel cooldown goes down even more, so still even faster than the TP scroll now, like a little bit faster than the TP scroll now. The radius on buckler is increased. The flutter duration is from 8 to 6, and bonus movement speed is faster. I like that change. I think the 20% didn't feel that amazing. Sure, it's a high percentage, but it's still a very expensive item. So 6 seconds of really bursting after your enemy could close up that gap. Clarity duration from 40 to 45. Total mana is restored, increased a little bit. You can also cast it from further range to your ally. Cloak, more magic resistance. Vanguard, damage block chance increased from 67 to 75. Pretty good buff for that, but since it doesn't block so many spells anymore, like the first thing we said was it doesn't block that much, it's gonna make it slightly more, like it balances out anyway. Crimson Guard, damage block is also increased to correspond. The active increased from 50 to 55, so it blocks more. AoE is increased as well. Desolator. Here's an item I care a lot about because I buy it a lot on TA. The damage is decreased by 10. So obviously a nerf in the later stages of the game. You will like slightly regret having a Desolator. You definitely want to switch it. Or you might want to switch it. But the recipe cost is lowered by 600. And I think this is a buffed TA still. I don't think this is a nerf by any means. The 10 damage, sure, I'll miss it, but 600 gold less to complete my full Desolator, I'll take that. I think it's really good for TA. Diffusal Blade now works on ranged illusions for half the value. Really good buff towards heroes like Mirana, who could benefit a lot from the Manta Diffusal build. So, gonna be a little bit stronger now, being able to have the ranged illusion mana burn, and I think that it should have worked like that. I remember recently telling a friend that they like illusions don't get the mana burn if they're ranged, and he was like, "What? What? Really?" He has been living in a lie, but now at least he gets half the mana burn. Divine Rapier gets more damage. Divines every game, guys. Divines every game. Dust of Appearance, movement speed slow is increased by 5% against, so a little bit easier to kill the Invis heroes as you can chase them down. Drums of Endurance, they've been in a bad spot and people haven't been buying them a lot, so Endurance attack speeds bonus is now instead of 10 to 20. So I assume that's the passive aura, that's not even the active one. So 20 attack speed, that's pretty good. I'm not sure if it's going to make people really buy it, but fair enough. A little bit of a gold reduce on Eagle Song, 100 gold less. Yule Scepter, an item that we have seen way too much of, in my opinion, gets 100 mana cost increase. So that's a big nerf. That's a big nerf. Sure, it's still a very good item to set up combinations and so on, but this is going to make it much more harder to sustain your mana to keep throwing the combinations. I have Scotty. Cold attack speed slow for ranged heroes from 3 to 2.5 seconds. It's still 5 seconds for melee heroes though, so Scotty, very slight nerf considering how much we've seen it, but they did nerf a lot of the popular carriers for it, so that's fine. I don't know why this is in Swedish, but okay. Flygande Kurir. Vision from 400 to 300. Speed burst. Speed from 650 to 800. Alright, I don't care if it has much vision. It's gonna be a little bit faster now, easier to bottle run. I'll take it. Force Staff health regeneration is increased from 3 to 4. Ghost Scepter is a little bit cheaper. All attribute bonus decreased from 7 to 5. Gloves of Haste attack speed increased from 15 to 20. Regeneration aura radius increased from 750 to 900. Healing Salve gets a different time, but still the same amount of heal, a little bit faster. You can also put it on allies with longer range. Reaver is cheaper, quite a bit cheaper as well, 200 gold. Recipe is increased though on Heart, so Satanics gets buffs, I guess, and the Heart stays the same in the cost. Healthy regeneration increased from 2 to 3.25. Regeneration time is 4 seconds, increased from 4 seconds on melee to 6 seconds on range, to 5 on melee and 7 on range. I don't think this makes the item much more lucrative than it is now though. I think it's still the same-ish. Sure, it's a pretty good percentage increase in health regeneration, but increasing the downtime as well between taking damage is like that's the whole reason people are not buying a lot of Heart right now, because it takes so long before it procs the heal. We'll see if people start buying it more. Lincoln's Dispel Block cooldown is lowered from 17 to 16. Magic Wand requirements are changed, so no longer the Magic Stick, 3 branches and a recipe. Now it's 2 branches and a circlet and the Magic Stick. Alright, so we don't have to buy the recipe anymore. And that seems fair enough. All attribute bonuses from 3 to 4. So a little bit nicer build up now. You can buy the 2 branches and a circlet early on in your starting build. Mask of Madness Berserk movement speed is lowered from 30 to 17. So really big nerf here to one of the most utilized items in the previous patch. Mechanism Restore active and Mechanism Aura radius increased to 900. The AoE of all the things have been increased, like all the AoE items like Mana Boots, the Mecha, and the Crimson Guard, for example, are increased. Static Charge no longer jumps to units that are invisible or in the Fog of War, same behavior as Chain Lightning. Static Charge cast range increased from 600 to 800. Alright, seems fair enough. It shouldn't really hit Invis heroes. I think that's really OP what that did. Necrobook gets a good change here, where the level 1 and level 2 Necrobooks are a lot stronger. It gets more HP, it gets more damage, and onto both the archer and the melee. The melee one in particular getting 20 more damage on level 1. And the aura as well from the archer is improved a little bit on low levels. I think that's fair because I used to buy the necro book on some heroes, and when you have a level 1 necro, you barely even want to use it, you know. So now it's going to be more worth. Observer wards now come in single increments, cost and restock time reduced by half and stock is doubled. And observer wards now provide 50 experience bounty when destroyed. Holy shit, support's getting even more love. Already got some love in the mechanical changes. The fact that you get more percentage of the gold and so on. But now this change as well. Attacking reward can no longer miss. Same percent rewards. How happy are you now, support players out there? How happy are you about this? Poison attack from Orb of Venom can now be lethal. Pipe of Insight. Insight Aura now also provides 10% magic resistance to nearby allies. Does not affect equipped hero. Okay. And Insight Aura radius increased from to 900. Attributes from Treads. It used to be 10 a long time ago. They've cut down to 8. Now they improve it to 9 as well. I would say that this is a response to the fact that mana boots as well as face boots have been buffed as well. So power treads get the buff so that you don't feel that they're just complete trash. Some gold lowering on the quarterstaff. The Radiance recipe is made more expensive, but in return they bring back a very old thing used to exist for not at this percentage, I believe, but you used to have this mischance on Radiance very long ago. Then it got removed. Now it's brought back. Makes me really feel nostalgic, you know. 17% miss rates on anyone who is affected by the Radiance. Radiance will be really strong with this. The Spectre ulti especially, as it applies the Radiance onto everyone in a team fight. So we will see more Radiances, I expect. Refresher, reworked components and bonuses. Okay, so old refresher, we know, hopefully you know what that was like. The new refresher is different. It gives 10 HP regen, 250% mana regen, 20 damage. So less damage, no attack speed, and no int. It requires 2 perseverances and a recipe. So it's slightly more expensive, and late game wise, it's a little bit worse as well. The build up is better though, I'm gonna say, because perseverances are pretty cost effective in what they give you. Maybe not cost effective, but like they're a pretty strong item for its slot. Good regen, a little bit of damage. I would say build up is slightly better, but the item as its whole is slightly worse for many heroes. Less damage and attack speed. Rod of Atos intelligence gets increased from 25 to 30. Even more buffs to Rod of Atos. And there was no cost increase on Satanic, so keep in mind that it's 200 gold cheaper now than it previously was. And the Unholy Rage duration is increased from 3.5 to 4 seconds. Sentry Ward. Attacking award can no longer miss, same for observers. Okay. Shiva, freezing aura, enemy attack speed reduction from 40 to 45. Small buff to Shivas. Really making this a crucial item for Storm, as you don't have the huge vision when you jump in anymore. So you really want to have Shivas. Stout Shield is a little bit cheaper, a little bit worse as well though in general. Just making it slightly less effective, but 50 gold less for it. Tangles can now be used to eat wards. What the fuck? Eating a ward heals for double the amount, 250 HP over 16 seconds. Because wards taste better. Thank you, Ice Frog. This is a best little note in the entire patch. Has a 450 cast range when targeting wards. Okay. Town Portal Scroll. Teleport cooldown increased from 65 to 70. Teleport no longer removes a thorough state when it's cast. Alright. So you can have just a Gold Scepter, as mentioned previously, and TP away from people. That is really massive against a lot of the physical right-click dealers. Of course, if they have a Diffusal Blade, you're in tough luck, but still, a very good increase. Cooldown increase, though, is going to be hard to manage. This may seem like a small one, but the amount of times that you find yourself wanting to TP to help your team and saying that, oh, I just have 10-second cooldown, you know. You're going to have 15-second cooldown. Math, yo. And I don't know, this could affect the gameplay quite a bit. So buying the Boost to Travel for the 45-second cooldown instead, it's a very big difference, you know? Very big difference. Urn of Shadows. Casting Soul Release on an enemy already under the effects of Soul Release now refreshes the existing debuff rather than applying a separate instance. Yeah, previously you could have multiple urns on the same target and deal more damage. But that was just a previous thing, no longer. Veil of Discord recipe is from 1250 to 1100. Cooldown is decreased from 30 to 20. Duration is also reduced from 25 to 16. So still a very good uptime with just 4 seconds downtime. And the mana cost is lowered even more. This means you more often can reapply it, and since the uptime is even better now than it was before, it's 4 seconds where you don't have it up, I would say Veil is slightly better now. Also, that 1100 or 150 less gold cost could be considerable. And finally, the last thing in the entire patch, Vladimir's offering lifesteal decreased from 16 to 15. Wow. Now grants 10% lifesteal to ranged heroes. Now requires headrest instead of ring of regeneration. Vladimir's offering now provides 2 to all stats, and Vladimir's aura now provides 3 HP regen. Alright. So it's slightly more expensive, but it does do more for your team. And that means the Wraith King could be a little bit more utilized as well, as his aura works fully for ranged heroes. Now having a Wraith King and a Vladimir's aura can make your ranged heroes lifesteal surprisingly much. And that could be seen a little bit in the next patch. Oh, look, there's my face. Well, how beautiful. The patch is over, boys. No more Aghanim Scepters for you. And that's about it. So 2 hours later, I'm done reading all this, and my throat hurts. Damn, there's a lot of people in here though.